Hello and welcome to Mountain Blade Warband with me, the most everyone, aka MrSuryt. This game is definitely one of my most played games. This is definitely a top 5 of all time games for me. Actually, it's probably top 3. Thinking about it, yeah, it would be. Top 3 game easily. It's a game that I'm constantly coming back to. I do have my Steam details available on the channel, and I'm more than happy to add anyone. Those that I have added have pretty much just about all noticed that I play this game to pieces. I play it a lot. And the question has been raised, or the request I should say, to do a little bit of a video to showcase it. And I'm more than happy to do that. Believe you me, I am happy to do that. So that's what we're going to do. However, over here it does not say Mountain Blade Warband like it normally does. It says Flora's Expanded. That is because I am quite well known for playing mod packs. So I thought I may as well play a mod pack for Mountain Blade. Why not? So that's what we're doing. The Flora's mod pack, it's... I'm not going to say not supported. It still is supported. It's still being fixed when there's a problem found. However, the devs of the mod pack, they are no longer focusing on it. They've moved on to Silver Stag, which is another mod pack that I do play. Recommend it. However, that is in the alpha. It is constantly being updated and changed. It's constantly being reworked, which means there is going to be the occasional character clear, character wipe. You're going to occasionally have to completely start over. And that's no good for a Let's Play. So we're going to go with Flora's. It's a little bit more stable. It is quite a stable pack. So why not? It adds a lot of great features that native, which is what people in the Mountain Blade community call vanilla, including the game developers for that matter. So we're going to call it native. Occasionally I'll slip up, I'll call it Flora's, but we all know what we mean now. Anyway, native is quite stable, it's quite fun, but it is missing a few features that a lot of people wanted. Flora's brings a lot of those to the game. This video is not going to have much gameplay. This video is going to have me creating my character. I'm going to start a new game. I'm going to make this an optional watch. I'm warning you now, if you want to watch the game actually played and you don't need to know about the character or what stats mean and all that kind of stuff, just skip this. I'll put an annotation from start to finish in the video leading to the second video, the actual start of the gameplay. Anyway, you hear about Calradia, a land torn between rival sovereignties, battling with each other for supremacy, a haven for knights and mercenaries, cutthroats and adventurers, all willing to risk their lives in pursuit of fortune, power or glory. In this land, which holds great dangers and even greater opportunities, you believe you may leave your past behind and start a new life. You feel that finally you hold the key of your destiny in your hands, free to choose as you will, and that whatever course you take, great adventures will await. So the land we're in, Calradia, it is torn by no less than 6 different kingdoms, all trying to reunite the kingdom under the one banner. The different ones that you've got your Nids up the top here. They're desert people, definitely kind of Middle Eastern Persian army sort of fighting the 300. You've got quite a few heavy hitting cavalry with vanilla troops, with native troops, and they've got some alright archers, but they're quite lightly armoured. The Rhodok Republic, they're kind of your Roman theme. No cavalry at all, however, in vanilla. I'm going to keep calling it vanilla. In native, they don't have any cavalry. They're well known for their crossbows, which just hit like a boss, and their spear walls. Lots of shield as well. They started off quite weak in native Warband. They've been upgraded or played around with a little bit in a few patches back. They are now quite OP. Very hard to take on. Kingdom of Nords. This one is your Vikings. Also no cavalry. Very good at throwing axes and one-shotting people, especially if they hit you in the head. They also have pretty decent shield walls. The vanilla, I've said it again, native Warband, one of the most powerful infantry units was the Nord Huskal, or Huskal, or Housecarl. I don't know. But anyway, it's the top tier, and it is absolutely a beast. 40 of those and you'll just own the map. They are great. However, they're not the same, we'll say. Slight spelling change and a definite tier drop. They're a tier 2. The new troops I've played around with a little bit in the Flora's pack, but not enough to really get a feel for them. They're known for their strong infantry and quite weak archer or throwing weapons. Not one of my favourites, to be honest, but one of the biggest or most popular factions by far. The Kurgites, these are all your horse everything. Horse archery is one of the things that they're most well known for. They are one of the best archer in the game, and they're on a horse. They are also probably one of the least favourite. Not very good when it comes to sieges and the like, taking towns and cities. You basically get an archer on a horse, but in doing so you lose the armour. They're very weak armour-wise, and I don't particularly enjoy having to replace my troops constantly. They are your sort of Mongol warriors, I guess. The Grand Principality of the Vegas, one of the weakest factions easily. Their big thing is archery. They're on par with the Kurgites, I believe, for skill, so you don't get anything extra there. They're nowhere near as heavily armoured as, say, your Swadians or the Rodok Republic. Bows are much weaker than crossbows in that they have very little penetration. But if they do good damage. Their advantage to going bows over crossbows is reload time. You can fire these things pretty damn fast, the bows. Crossbows much slower. Of course they one-shot everything, whereas the bows will 2-3-shot things. They don't have armour, they've got a weaker weapon, arguably stopping power-wise. Not all of them carry shields like the Rodoks do. They do have mounted units, but they're nowhere near as good as the Nids or the Swaddies. So they tend to be one of the least played factions. And the Kingdom of Swadia, these ones here, they just get their ass handed to them early game all the time because they're the only kingdom that is bordered by every other kingdom. So they're always looked at as being a potential victim. They do, however, in native, have one of the most, or the most, overpowered troop in the game. The Swadian Knight. Very well armoured, and very proficient with their weapons. I do love going to Swadians, or at least having some of their troops. In Floras with the expanded trees, they are still known for their heavy cavalry, but they're a little bit better in other areas as well. So they do have archers or crossbows, I can't remember. They've got some pretty decent armour, and they've got really probably the best cavalry in the game. So I do recommend playing those. They're very fun. However, we're going to make things a little bit harder for ourselves. We're going to go to Vegas. We're going to put Fog of War on, which just means we don't know where any other towns or cities or anything is in the game, training fields, all that, until we've visited it. Companions, you do have companions. They're pretty much just a weaker version of you. You do get to control them, change them, up their stats, etc. And their equipment. You can eventually give them fiefs and towns and castles if you want, and let them run around with their own army. Takes a while to get to that point, however. Gathering them just puts them all in the one place at the start, so you can build them up as you see fit. However, you don't start with much money, so you can't actually do that anyway. Not going to bother. gender does play a role, not only changing your stats down the bottom here, your attributes and your stats, I guess. What that'll also do is change the way that everybody looks at you, the way that everybody treats you. This game is set back with castles and knights and sword fights and bows and things like this. Back then, men didn't really care much for women. They liked them, but only for one thing. So if you go a female character, it's straight away puts you at a bit of a disadvantage. People will not be willing to do things for you. They really don't want you out of the, I was going to say kitchen, but no, you're planning on being a lord. You've got people to cook for you. Out of the castle, though, they want you sitting nice and safe doing nothing. It may be a little bit sexist, but this game is based around a period when sexism was very strong. We're going to go female character because it's something that I've never really done. Excuse me. And it is something that is quite difficult, so we're going to give that a shot. All these things here you get to change, and they do change your starting money, your starting ability with weapons, your starting attributes, and the extra little skills that you get. In Impoverished and Noble, for example, you get yourself a little bit extra coin. It may end up also giving you a bit in riding, things like that, persuasion, leadership. It doesn't look terrible. You do get a crossbow as opposed to a bow, and I want to go bow, believe it or not. I'm going to go hunter, because hunter is always, in every single game, one of the most overpowered classes to play. Not so much in this one, but yeah, we'll stick with hunter. You spent your early life as a page at a nobleman's court. Isn't that nice? But I didn't. Craftsman's apprentice, street urchin, child, stepchild, stepchild I'm guessing, shop assistant, murmur, sort of a travelling performer, courtier, and noble in training. One thing I should point out, accolade, whatever it is. One thing I should point out is these things can change depending on if you're male or female. So not all these will be available to you if you go male character. I think used to be anyway. It might just be a native thing. We'll go with travelling performer. Well, definitely it does change. You can't be a lady in waiting if you're a bloke. Slave trader, bandit, gladiator, thief, bravo, mercenary, game poacher, smith, goods peddler, preacher, troubadour, another performer I guess, university student or lady in waiting. Slave trader looks good. Slaves are very important in this game to make money, definitely early on. Very hard to make money. And we are, the reason for an adventure, we are sense of duty, personal revenge, a loss of a loved one, a wanderlust, religious fever, being forced out of your home, or lust for money and power. Let's go wanderlust. Alright, those changes, excuse me, those choices have changed our strength, agility, intelligence and charisma. It's also given us all these skills here. It also looks like we're pretty decent with a bow, and not too bad with a one hand as well. Let's put Fog of War back on. I don't know why I took that off. Oh, well, this here is my biography. One thing I'm going to say, with vanilla, there's a lot of names and words, or native, a lot of names and words in the game that I cannot pronounce. Vegas is one of the worst places to go to if you're not very good at saying weird foreign words. It's actually based off Russian, sort of, maybe Scandinavian troops and area. And yeah, I'm going to struggle. I'm really going to struggle, so just bear with me when I'm not able to say one of the very strange words, which you'll understand once we get into the game. Anyway, my biography. You were born years ago in a land far away. Your father was a hunter. You were the daughter of a family who lived off the woods, doing whatever they needed to make ends meet. Hunting, woodcutting, making arrows, even a spot of poaching whenever things got tight. Winter was never a good time for your family, as the cold took animals and people alike, but you always lived to see another dawn, though your brothers and sisters might not be so fortunate. Oh, lucky them. You started to learn about the world almost as soon as you could walk and talk. You spent your early life as a murmur. As a girl growing out of childhood, you attached yourself to a troupe of wandering entertainers, going from town to town, setting up murmurs shows, whatever they are, I don't know. Murmurs. It was a life of hard work, selling, begging and stealing your living from the punters who flocked to watch your antics. Over time you became a performer well capable of attracting a crowd. Obviously the biography changes depending on what you've chosen over here. Then as a young adult, life changed as it always does. You become a slave trader, or a slaver. Then as a young adult, life changed as it always does. Oh, you become a slave trader. Okay. Though the distinction felt sudden to you, somewhere along the way you had become a woman, and the whole world seemed to change around you. By some strange twist of fate, you joined a slave caravan as a guard and slowly grew competent at watching over crafty humans, cattle, on long journeys across the face of Calradia. That's a long sentence. Every so often you had to raid isolated villages or chase down new livestock, and through these experiences grew accustomed to blunt language of club and stick. Though your profession is tolerated, it is not particularly respected, and so you become inured also to suspicion and derision. Okay, so we're not so much liked, however we're pretty good with blunt weapons, and we're pretty good with a bow. Now that's a hint to tell you what weapons you're going to start off with. You're going to start off with most likely some kind of club, or warhammer or the like, and a bow. But soon everything changed and you decided to strike out on your own as an adventurer. What made you take this decision was wanderlust. Only you know exactly what caused you to give up your old life and become an adventurer. You're not even sure when your home became a prison, when the family became mundane, but your dreams of wandering have taken over your life. Whether you yearn for some faraway place or merely for the open road and the freedom to travel, you could no longer bear to stay in the same place. You simply went and never looked back. As a common woman, you may face great difficulties establishing yourself as an equal among Calradia's great lords. So that's my biography. Right at the bottom there, you're basically told that you're common, a common person, plus as a female, people are not going to like you. If I was to go noble, you do start with a slight advantage in that you're already a lord. Well, I don't know, I guess a Dane in this, maybe? You're still called a lord, I believe. So you are respected a little bit more. You do skip some of the game in that you don't have to go through the whole mercenary level or building up your renown to go straight from just a wandering band of adventurers into a particular faction, into a lordship. So you do skip that, and it does mean that you will probably end up with your own fiefs a little bit earlier. However, I don't actually find that to be any easier. I find it to be harder because there's a lot of things you can do as a mercenary, and a lot of character building and money making as a mercenary you can't do as a lord. So I'm actually going to go as a commoner. Alright, I think that's all good. We'll make sure we got everything done. Fog of War, yep, gathering companions. We're going to Vegas to begin with. Doesn't mean we're part of their faction. That's just where we're going to start. Expanded troops, yep, that's good. Native troops are quite detailed and fun to play. Reworked is native troops. Not sure if I've gone over this yet. They're native troops, but just tweaked a little bit, made a little bit better, and a little bit harder to pronounce. The expanded troops is what we're going to go with. This is very complicated and I can't say any of the names of any of the troops in the game. Yep. Let's go for it. Oh, well, we've got to do all our stats and everything. We're going to go with allow me to quit without saving. The reason for that is, whilst the game is stable, it does occasionally have a few problems, especially when you're playing a mod pack. Being able to save without quitting out is going to save us some hassle in the long run. Most people will play with allow me to quit without saving. Alright, well, we can't go Suryt because we're female, so we're going to have to go MrSuryt. Yeah, we're the wife of me. You got your 3 different types of attribute, skill, proficiency, whichever one you want to call them. Attributes. Now these are your base 4. Strength, agility, intelligence, charisma. They all add something to you or your abilities in the game. For example, charisma. That adds 1 more troop that you can have in your party size. 1 more troop you can have in your band of brothers or sisters. Intelligence, it gives you an extra skill point. So that's very useful. Agility, that allows your movement speed. It has a couple of effects that aren't really listed there. So it is one that it's quite good to have reasonably high. And then strength. Keep hitting the mic, sorry about that. Strength adds to your overall health pool up the top here. As a female, we have started with pretty much no health. We are very, very squishy. So we're definitely going to put some points into that. In fact, I'm going to do that right now before I forget. Still quite weak. Next, we've still got 2 more to do in there. We'll get to those right now. We're going to put him into intelligence. Okay. Skills. These ones here. These are things that directly affect your character, ability to do things, use things, or be things. It also affects your party. Now, if you look up the top here, you'll see that Iron Flesh, for example, is a personal skill. That means something that affects just you. If you remember, I mentioned companions earlier. They're like a weaker version of you. You can give them skills and everything, exactly the same as what you can do for yourself. And that includes personal skills like Iron Flesh. Iron Flesh on this character does not affect any other character. It is also a base attribute of, if you look down the bottom here, strength. And what that means is, every 3 points you put into strength is 1 point you can put into that particular skill with that base attribute. The top few here are all strength based. Iron Flesh adds 2 hit points. Just makes you a little bit less squishy. Not a bad one to use when you're female and have no health to begin with. Alright, there is also ones like, well, these ones here are agility based. And look at that, looting. Not only is it agility based, it's party skill. Party skills, basically it will take the most proficient companion or yourself at that particular skill, and it'll use it for the entire party. Looting, for example, just increases the amount of loot you get after battles by 10% per level. So it's going to take the best person for the job is going to be the looter, basically. You can, if you've got a little bit of skill in it, it will add just a bonus to the overall. So it is definitely one that's best used with your companions. There's a few like that. And then finally you have personal skills. No, not personal skills. Leadership skills. There they are. Leadership skills. These ones are a mix of personal and party. They affect the entire party. However, only the leader of that particular band's skill can count. So your companions can have prisoner management, for example, but even if their prisoner management is better than your prisoner management, you'll always use your leader skill, your ability. Your companions can become lords under your banner if you eventually do build your own kingdom, which means it is okay for your lords to have prisoner management, well, ones like leadership. Very important for them to have it, in fact. There's one other ability which is worth mentioning, that's trainer. It's a personal skill. However, all companions and yourself in a party do add to the training ability. What training does is anyone lower level than you gets a little bit of experience. If you've got 1 point in this, you'll give them 4 experience once a night, at midnight. If you're, say you've got 2 points in it, any lower level troop that you've got, which will be like your peasants and that, will get 10 points. If you've got one companion that has 1 point in training, that's 4, you'll get 14 points. So it pays to have your companions leveled up and with a bit of training. We're not going to put into that to begin with because we're level 1. We have no ability to train anyone. Everyone's higher level than us. Literally, everyone is. Even the peasants are better than us. But I'm going to get a horse, so I'm going to be better than him. Better than them. Alright, power strike is a good one. That means we hit a bit harder. Power draw is good for our bow, of course. Shield, we want to be able to use a shield. We're running out of points here. So many that I want to use. I'm going to put a little into wound treatment just to heal us up. I generally will use wound treatment, surgery and first aid. I'll use a companion for that. They're party skills. They do things like, first aid, if you die or get knocked out during a battle and the battle has a second stage, your hero will rise from the dead with 5% hit points per level. Very important because you never actually do die, you only ever get knocked out. Your troops can die. That one there does affect your companions as well, so they'll get knocked out and they'll rise again with a little bit of health. Very good to have that up quite high. But that one's party skill, so it can be used. We can waste points from a companion on that one. Surgery, there's a 4% chance per level that guys that are killed, your actual troops that die, they won't die, they'll get wounded instead. So having that nice and high, having that at 10 points, have it maxed out, have a little bit on yourself, you can actually get around 14 points total into it. You have a much better chance of your guys not dying. So I recommend that one. But again, party skill. Wound treatment. Party healing speed is increased by 20%. That's outside of battle time. This one is very useful, even for your own hero to have a little bit in it. Because what it will do, things like you can ride a horse, and your horse can get injured. And it can be a permanent injury. A lame horse can be quite slow and painful to use. Putting it into your inventory, if you've got a little bit of skill in these doctoring abilities, you can actually heal your horse. So it does pay. Plus early on there's no guarantee that I will get a companion, so there's a good chance that I'm going to have to do a bit of wound treatment myself. Right, your proficiencies with your weapons and the like, well, not and you like, just the weapons. Throwing, crossbow, archery, polearm, two-handed weapon and one-handed weapon. These things here, they will level up just from using that type of weapon. You also get 10 points every time you level up. You get 1 point in skill and 1 point in attribute every time you level up. What I tend to do with the weapon points... Oh, my nose is getting blocked up. Weapon points every time I level up. I will put them into archery and one-handed. They're the two that we're going to focus on to begin with. They will level up... They will level up based on use. You also get extra weapon points just for being very good with these weapons in battle, or just using them really. So we will level these two up pretty high, pretty fast. There is occasions where you will be using these other weapons though. Sometimes the game can just throw you a curveball and you end up in a town surrounded by enemies with nothing but a polearm and no armour. And polearms are one of my least favourite weapons. Bar none. Spears in particular, I just hate them. Can't play them. Especially on horseback. So it does pay to have a few points in these. What we are going to do, after we've got our archery and our one hand up a little bit, we will start putting points into these. Ordinarily I'd like to go two-handed weapons over the one-handed. They generally do a lot more damage, a little bit slower. But yeah, you hit like a truck. The reason we're going one-handed is because with a one-handed weapon you can also take a shield, and we are squishy. So we're going to put a few points in that. We are going to be doing a fair amount of whacking with a hammer to begin with. Archery as well, at 60 points in archery, you're lucky if you could hit the side of a barn if you're standing in it. So we're going to put a couple of points in that. We do want to get that up quite high, around the 200, 250. Alright. Next, have a look at all these sliders. There is a lot to change. And pretty much no matter how you change all those, your character still ends up looking like they're doing the duck face. There's, yeah, female in particular is pretty bad. So we'll just stick with the basics. That one right there, that'll do nicely. Game is a little bit older, let's not forget. It's gameplay more than anything in this game. So we're going to go with that. There is a lot of things you can change though. The beard for the female is earrings, however. Yeah. So there's that. I don't even... What do we get? Some weird little purple things. Alright, that's what we're going to go with. And this is where the game begins. So that is it for this episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If you have, hit like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you want to see more, hit like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. This has been probably a little bit boring. Hopefully you've watched it just to see where we're going. But I won't at all begrudge you if you have skipped straight to the action. The way I'm going to play it, I'm not going to do too much. This is how this is done, this is how that's done as I'm playing it. I'm more just going to play the game. So that is it for tutorial. I will still point out certain things, of course. Anyway, that is it. Hit like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I will see you episode 2. Bye bye.